Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy. This right here is the Shamwari knife in a Damasteel blade by a maker named Gareth Bull, based out of South Africa. This is a really interesting knife, and this is a really interesting example because it's one of the very early ones. As you can see here, this is number 03. Out of the initial 5 that he made. These were made in August 2013, and he's come a long way since this particular knife, but nonetheless, I'll take a look at it. Let's do a quick size comparison here. This is the 3-inch Shamwari. First off, we'll compare it to the Ontario Rat number 2, and actually, functionally speaking, the blades are very, very similar in these two knives. Thickness-wise, they're about the same, and in terms of shape, although this has got a lot more style to it, they're very, very similar in terms of size. So if you like one size, you'll probably like the other. This is the Rat number 1 here. That was the Rat 2. I probably screwed that up again. Either way, way bigger than this guy. Spyderco Dragonfly is way smaller than this guy. Spyderco Delica is in the same ballpark, although the Shamwari is a lot smaller in the pocket, which is nice. And then finally, I want to compare to the other Gareth Bull that I now own after picking this guy up. I picked up a Gareth Bull Miura. This one's got some refinishing that I had to do after... Well, I screwed up the bolster trying to get the screw out of there. But nonetheless, the sizes are about similar, even though the styles are very different on these two knives. One other thing I gotta say, though, before I go on, Gareth Bull is one of the makers out there who doesn't have a very good reputation. This is because in, I want to say 2012, someplace along those lines, he was actually ejected from the Knife Makers Guild of South Africa, maybe 2013. This is because he had some trouble filling orders. He's got long threads on a couple of different forums of people who are stuck in limbo, who'd sent money but didn't get knives, where there were big delays between shipping, there were lacks of communication. Basically, he seems like one of those people who has a pattern of getting overwhelmed and going quiet. This is a thing that some people do. It's life, but it can be really scary. And actually, this happened even for me. I contacted him and I paid him for some pots for these knives, as well as a pivot tool. And he dropped out of contact for a few weeks in between the payment and the shipping. Just completely didn't respond to messages, just disappeared. And I even had somebody else contacting me during that time to see if I had a way to get in touch with him, because I'd been posting on the Instagram. The thing is, though, he did reemerge, and he did very right by me. He provided a new pivot for this guy, some extra washers, some options, even some new hardware for the Miura. He really did go above and beyond there. He shipped everything from South Africa, and then when there was a snag on the payment side, he offered to comp the whole thing. That's not going to happen. Damn it, Gareth, if you're watching this, send me your PayPal information. I'm paying. But nonetheless, I mean, my impression from talking with him, even about these issues, is that his heart is in the right place. He's a nice guy, and he seems to be really working on this, but he's still got some growing to do in terms of communicating with people and customers and handling those times when things get overwhelming. Practically speaking, I can't vouch for the guy or anything like that. Your experience may be very different. I'm a reviewer. He may treat me better, but I would happily work with him again, and I think that his skill as a maker kind of outweighs the faults in the communication. So I'm pretty happy I didn't write him off altogether because of that. So anyways, all of that aside, like I said, I've been impressed with the guy so far. And let's go on ahead and go into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly, and talk about the knife itself, because that's why we're all actually here. So on the good side, first off, I love the size of this guy. It's a 3-inch knife, and 3 inches, at least for me, is kind of a sweet spot. It's small enough at that size that it's very easy to carry. You can leave it in your pocket and just not even think twice about it. But it's also large enough that you can get done pretty much anything that I need to get done in my everyday life, given I'm kind of an office drone type. I don't have to be chopping down vines and swinging through jungles like apparently Tarzan might need a larger pocket knife. I don't know what I'm on about. But anyways, 3 inches is pretty good for me. Not everybody needs a cold steel espada in their pocket every day. So I appreciate very much that this is a 3-inch knife and that Gareth seems to regularly work in the 3-inch range. So many custom makers tend to go huge, and this isn't. That's great. Speaking of carrying this guy, the clip on this is very, very, very well done. It's a simple thing. It's just a chunk of titanium. But it's got a great amount of spring. It's very secure in the pocket, the way that it's done. It's got a great ramp to get into your pocket. It's very nice in that way. The tension is good. The length on it is good. Honestly, this is a great clip. And absolutely 100% solid in the clip department, and that's unusual for me. Like, it's good enough that I thought twice about it, rather than just being like, oh. So that's great. Next thing I like about this guy is that it is a front flipper opening knife. You've got this little ridge here, and the way that you open it is that you press your thumb against it here and apply some pressure, and the blade flies out once the detent is passed by. I find this to be a pretty graceful solution to rapid opening. A flipper is probably a little bit easier, like this Kaiser flashbang is what's on the table at the moment, in that you're already kind of in the position you're going to be gripping the knife by, but the front flipper action is not particularly bad either, because you just do that and then rotate it in your hand. The best thing about it, though, is that it has no pocket pecker. It has no little thing sticking off the back here that's constantly going to be poking you and poking whatever else is in your pocket. This is just a little contained slab. Front flippers are unusual. They haven't really caught on in the knife community on the whole, but I like it very much, and I'd like to see more of it, honestly, in the world. Very a South African thing, for whatever reason. That seems to be where they're most popular. Moving on, the design on the whole actually really brings me a lot of joy. In a lot of ways, it reminds me in spirit and ethos of the Chris Reeve knife Shabazz, another South African knife, although it's made in the USA these days. Chris Reeve is South African himself. It's a very simple sort of, I don't know if utilitarian is the term here, but there's not a whole lot going on here, but what is going on is done really, really well. This has got a touch more gentleman's folded to it than the actual Chris Reeve knives Shabazz, and frankly, there were design elements I like here a little bit more rounding. But it is a simple thing that's done very, very well, a simple titanium frame lock, and that's kind of a beautiful thing. The design is great. Next thing that I like very much about this knife is that it actually came as a kit. It came in a little Pelican case sort of affair, and it comes with a couple of different things. You've got the knife itself. You've got 2 additional scales for the knife, so you can pop off this lightning strike carbon fiber, which is beautiful, by the way, and could also probably go into the good section, and replace it with a Digicam for whatever reason, and also with a black G10 textured scale here, if you felt that need. That's cool. You get to mix it up, get a little bit of variety. Personally, I'd probably prefer just plain titanium, but whatever. Also includes disassembly tools. It includes a Torx bit for this in the back here, and it includes the 5-hole pivot tool for the original pivot, which looks a little bit something like that. There we go. Replace that. We'll talk about that in a bit here. But it's very nice that it comes with the tools, and it also comes with some spare parts, like a spare standoff screw in the back here. That's just nice. I'd like to see more makers sending not only a nice case with their knives, but also some extra tools for maintenance and upkeep. That's considerate, and I appreciate it very much, especially given that this originally wasn't all that expensive. So the kit thing is great. The construction on this guy is simple and well done. It's a titanium frame lock, and it's got another scale on the other side here. Yeah, the other scale is just carbon fiber, but this isn't something that you're going to be doing hard-use tactical batoning with, so I'm very okay with that. And it's got a nice back spacer in there. Hopefully you can see. It's a nice little blued titanium sort of affair. It's got this nice little ring around the outside here, the pivot collar. And also note that that pivot collar is the over travel stop. You can see, hopefully I can make you see that, but there's a little bit of a step on the pivot, on the lock bar here, that engages against the the pivot collar here and prevents the pivot from going over the edge there. That's smart. I've seen that in a couple of other places. The Kaiser John Gray SLT does something similar. Yeah, but either way, it's nice. I like that very much. It's a good idea, and it's a good solution to a common problem, the over-travel stop thing. Then finally, I gotta give a shout out to Gareth for being willing to work with me. This knife, when it shipped out, was apparently running on Teflon washers. Somebody who had this guy before me, and it kicked around a fair amount apparently, replaced those Teflon washers with very badly cut out, janky bronze washers. I'm sympathetic to wanting to get rid of Teflon, but these were bad. Like, you can see that they went at this with, like, tin snips to try and fit it down to the proper size for this side. And as a result, things were out of center and whatnot. This was not advertised to me. That was a nasty little surprise I got when I opened the guy up. But nonetheless, so I contacted Gareth about that, and he shipped me a new set of washers, both Teflon and phosphobronze, brand new from the factory. He also shipped me a brand new backspacer here that goes with the phosphobronze washers that maintains the proper spacing. And as a result, even though these are brand new washers, the blade is absolutely perfectly centered when dialed in. That's impressive. The fact that he not only sent the new washers, but he sent me a new backspacer just to make sure that everything would be perfect. That shows that he gives a damn. Also, when I mentioned that the little five dot pivot thing enraged me slightly, he said, well, I can make you one with an Allen key in there, or a Torx, depending. And he did, and he even included this little pivot collar thing, which I didn't ask for, as an additional little bit of joy. He really went above and beyond here, and he went and he fixed the ugly. He fixed the Teflon, he fixed the janky washers that weren't his fault at all, and he fixed this freaking 5-dot pivot thing and put in a really excellent pivot. That's huge to me, and honestly, he went the extra mile. It's proof that he gives a damn about his final product even after. He was well within his rights to say, Nick, screw off. But he didn't, and I appreciate deeply that he didn't. So that's your good here. Gareth really did go the extra mile for me, even if it took a little while. The simple construction is done very, very well. It comes as a kit rather than just the knife in a plastic baggie. It's got a great design. I like front flippers. The clip is good, and the size is great. Let's talk about what's really great about this knife, though. What's really, really great about this knife, to me at least, is the blade. You can see here that this is made of a pattern welded or Damascus style steel, in this case by the Damasteel company. And it's just gorgeous. And he's got a great maker's mark too. I forgot to mention that. But anyways, this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous steel. I hope it's being captured well by the camera here. But holy crap, do I love staring at this freaking blade. It's incredible. And he's got a great etch on it. There's a degree of really, this feels three-dimensional. That's just, I love this blade material. It's a stellar blade. It's also got a great grind on it. It's a relatively thin blade, but the grind is pretty much full and flat, and it is very thin behind the edge, which means that this is also a very good cutting tool. It's ground well to cut. I mean, it's thin enough to slice things, which is nice and is more than can be said for a lot of modern knives. So this blade is absolutely great, and is one of the things I like absolutely most about this little guy. Let's talk about the bad, because there is some bad here. Okay, on the bad side, first off, there is some lock stick. It's not the bad kind of lock stick. It's not like, but you definitely, every time you disengage the lock bar, hear a little bit of a pop. Not the end of the world. Second issue, which is more disconcerting than problematic, is that there's a little bit of lock creep in that if I pinch the knife in this direction, the lock bar actually moves a little bit in this direction. Watch. And that's the case if you kind of bear down on the knife as you cut and you kind of hear it pop a little bit. The lockup is still very secure. I've tested this. I've done some spine whacking, which is a silly thing to do to this knife, but I wanted to make sure. And that's just a little bit weird. Maybe it's a question of lock face geometry. I'm not a knife maker. I'm not 100% sure what causes it, but it is a little bit disconcerting. I show no evidence of that on the Miura, though, so I'm assuming that was just a freshman issue with this particular knife. Next thing, the Lightning Strike carbon fiber is a nice material. You can see it's got little copper wires embedded in the carbon fiber. But unfortunately, it's very possible for those wires to kind of pop loose a little bit and then poke you in the fingers every so often. So sometimes you'll feel like, oh, wait, what was that? And then you'll have to go in there just with some pliers, pull out that little wire. You're back to normal. This is true of any Lightning Strike carbon fiber. I'm not beating up on this particular knife for it, but it is something you got to keep in mind anytime you see this material. Next issue, the front flipper tab here, this jimping is way too sharp. This is a file, not a jimping. It's seriously, it beats up on your finger in a kind of an ugly way. Not a big fan of that over sharp jimping. It's something he fixed in the Miura here, but it's a little bit much here. It really does tear at your thumb a little bit. And then finally, pardon me, Last issue here is that the detent on this guy is honestly way too strong, meaning that it takes a lot of force to finally pop that blade free. And, you know, that's just life. On a front flipper, it's nice in some ways to have a strong detent because that makes it more of a poppy action. But there's definitely a line. This is to the point where it's genuinely a little bit uncomfortable to apply that much force, and you end up kind of torquing the knife on the hole as you do so until finally, pow, it goes out of there. It means it's always going to open, but I don't like that amount of force that's being required there. Again, this is something that's fixed in my later on Miura by the same guy, so I'd like to think that's also a freshman issue here. But it is a little bit on the bad side, bordering on ugly. That's a strong, strong detent. But the knife works. So, it's just bad. That's the bad on this guy. The detent is overly strong. It's got a very sharp tab on the front flipper here. The lightning strike carbon fiber, like any lightning strike carbon fiber, will shed on occasion. It's got a little bit of lock shift and a little bit of lock stick. Let's talk about the ugly. So on the ugly front, two issues. One of them has been fixed, and that's he originally used this little 5-point pivot screw. These are really ugly. It's a proprietary screw. It's a screw-you screw in a lot of ways. He included the tool, which makes it better, but that's ugly. The thing is, he fixed it, so we're moving on. The other thing that is a little bit uglier is the, this numbering right here. You can see this looks like it was done with some kind of a hand engraving tool. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I can do any better with a hand engraving tool, but the contrast between this very clean etched logo here and this very... sorry, but a little bit of hackneyed, amateurish hand engrave on the numbers over here makes me a little bit sad. The most of this knife is very, very, very clean. It's a very, very simple, well done, precise design. But this part just screams amateur. And that bugs me a little bit. I really wish that he had used whatever process he used for this to put that number in there, or even rented some time at a laser or a CNC, something along those lines. Or if he needed to hand engrave and number, that he did it on the inside of the frame, so you didn't see it as often. That's the one blemish on a knife that is otherwise really masterfully done, and is the one thing I really wish was not on this knife whatsoever. So that's your ugly, the fact that it originally came with a really bad fastener, and that it unfortunately has this hand engraved that's not done super, super well. Let's go to the final conclusions. Look, this is a damn good knife. It's got great design ideas. It's got very, very good execution with a couple of issues here and there still. It's a beautiful blade. It's got these great materials on there. Oh my God. And frankly, even with those issues, this design and this overall construction is good enough for me to call this a gem. This is an early effort, though. I can see that. It's got the lock stick, it's got the odd detent, it's got the over-sharp jimping, and that numbering is still ugly. But even with that, there's enough promise here that I'm very, very impressed. And especially for a brand new Shamwari, I have no problem anticipating gem here, especially given this comparison. This guy was made in 2013, this guy was made in 2016. This knife, the Miura, is absolutely astoundingly good. I love this knife. This is really, really impressive to me. Really critical Nick Shabazz. And the idea of this design made with this level of execution is really super appealing. If the new Shamwaris have that level of excellence and mastery with them, with this kind of a design, they are going to be over the top incredible. And that's the impression that Tony over at Everyday Commentary got of one. He picked one up recently and he's just absolutely in love. And he's one of the few people on earth who's as picky as I am. So, I mean, I guess my overall feelings are that, you know, even despite some of the issues in the past, Gareth does seem to be one hell of a knife maker. He may still be learning, and the communication should get a little bit of work, but he's damn good, and his heart does seem to be in the right place. He's got a great sense of design, construction, materials, and he really impressed me in his willingness to provide parts and to fix issues. It contrasts nicely with, well, some of the other makers out there who don't really seem to give a damn once their knives leave the factory. Practically speaking, I'm keeping a very close eye on what he's doing. Next time his books are open, I'm probably going to get on him for a brand new Shamwari, and I'm going to work with him again. The excellence that I'm seeing here is worth dealing with a little bit of communication issue, and hopefully he's going to iron that out in the future. So I guess Gareth has impressed me, and frankly, the Shamwaris impressed me. If you find one of these guys, particularly a recent one, I say do it. And, you know, practically speaking, I'm probably going to be looking for a new one of these myself. So, there you go. Hope this was interesting, and that you enjoyed me shooting the bull. Get it? Because he's Gareth Bull. That was bad. All right. Moving on. And most of all, that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.